Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, and here we are again. The magnificent one-armed woman and her sister, Susan, back in St. Louis. Hi, Suze.
Hey.
How?
Hey.
Yeah, God. I will then forego the next question, which is, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, too. Jeez. So, anyway.
Your volume is a little low today.
Is it? Okay. Jess doesn't quite understand that. Can you hear me, though?
I can hear you.
You have to work a little harder. Okay. So, I mentioned this yesterday, but I hadn't watched it. Some professor at Boston University sent me a video of an interview I had done with him on my talk show, television talk show in Madison, Wisconsin in 1978. And
wow.
I have no video from that show at all. So it was, what a gift, because it blew me away. It absolutely blew me. I watched it last night. And what's so odd is to see myself doing essentially what I still am doing it then. I would have been 29 years old, maybe 28, 29. What was I in 78? I was 20. I was 30.
You were 30.
I wasn't
right.
20.
You couldn't
I
have
know,
been 20,
no.
dear.
29. I was about 29. 30. Okay, I was 30. And it's such a riot. First of all, I'm like wearing no makeup. Second of all, I don't need any makeup. Third of all, my hair. Susan, that hair.
I know, that long hair.
Oh, I want it back. I love that hair. I loved that hair. And it was the audience that made me cut it off.
Oh, well, but I have to tell you, there was a doctor here that trained at Madison, and she couldn't believe it when you cut your hair. She said, tell your sister to grow that hair back. What was she thinking?
Oh, I was responding to the nasty letters from people. I hope you don't prepare food with your hair like that.
Oh, my God. Oh, God.
And
it was before you realized how
what?
How awful some of the public could be.
Yeah, and how they badgered me, and then other people said I was getting too old to wear my hair like some Indian princess, and it had to go. But, oh, my God, I forgot that hair. There was some shots from behind me. My God, it was almost down to my waist. That's too long. But, ooh, I loved it. I liked the way I look then. Well, of course, who doesn't like the way they look when they're 29 or 30? But I sounded the same. And
I bet you did.
And I was a little more, actually, I wasn't as, I was more contained. I was more like a proper.
Well, but it was a different job.
Sort of, yeah, kind of. But, yeah. But, gosh. And I actually think I was sharper, definitely, than I am now. I was remembering, we had no teleprompters. We had none of the gizmos that TV people have now. And so anything I said was absolutely off the top of my head. There was very little umming and erring, and I was really, I think much more sort of smooth than I am now. That was a little upsetting. But it was interesting. And Jess had said, well, don't you have a VCR? Didn't you have a VCR so you could, tape some of your shows back then?
No, I think that was way before VCRs.
Yeah, that's what I said. So there was no way to capture.
Nope.
How he captured it, I'm assuming he asked the TV station.
And TV stations didn't always tape it either.
No.
If it went out live, it wasn't necessarily taped.
Well, what it was put on this huge reel. And that was for FCC purposes. They had to hold, I think, programming for a certain amount of time, and then it's gone. Then it's gone. So, I mean, none of that does exist anymore. But he must have asked, is there a way you could give me a copy?
Right.
And they made him a copy. And so now I have a little video from Live at 5.
Well, cool.
I loved it. So he gave me a great gift, and I did tell him that. Thank you. I was looking at him, I'm thinking, I wonder what he looks like now. I think my first line in my thank you note was, oh, we were so young. We were so young. I bet he looks better. He was, men often do, their faces sort of, I don't know. What is that about men?
I don't know. Men tend to grow into themselves in a way that some women don't.
Or is it that we're culturally programmed?
It might be that we culturally,
that?
and it's very, it might, and I would think that culture goes way back to respect the male elder and to find them attractive. I think that's probably animal.
Well, here's what's more animal than that. The woman, the female, past childbearing age, is of no use.
Right.
Of little use.
And becomes invisible in society.
Right.
And still does.
Yeah, absolutely still does. It's mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
How you're treated as an gray-haired lady. It's just amazing. And that doesn't happen to men. So come to think of it, that's something to be pissed off about today. I was in a good mood. Now maybe I can get pissed off. Jeez.
You can't get angry about getting older.
No, you can only...
you can only attempt to make your peace with it.
That's right. Grin and bear it. What else you going to do? There's nothing you can do.
Well, you can do like what our mother does, which is to keep herself active and relevant and fun to be around so that your friends keep getting younger.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to do. And to avoid fuddy-duds in your peer group. Don't you think?
I do.
Because there are, you see...
I think you have to go out in search of life because it's going to stop coming in search for you.
That is true. You have to show up. Is that what your friend told you? Or
my friend said, I said she had just moved to a new town, and I actually back to Green Bay, and I was just shaking my head going, how are you
from
ever
New York City
find anything for yourself here?
In Green Bay.
And I asked her what she did. She said, I don't care what it is. If somebody asks me to do something, I say yes. She said, you can always edit later, but if you say no, no one will ask twice.
That is absolutely true. And I can see that's what our mother does, too. Because she goes to the most bizarre things. Oh, I have to go out tonight. What are you going out to? Oh, so-and-so is reading her poetry at some event.
She goes everywhere.
And I remember her telling me that the reason I remember this one is because it was something like 20 below zero.
Right.
And I said, you're going out to hear some woman read poetry? I said, you'll be the only person there. She said, well, yeah, and out she went.
Well, and she also probably felt like that's why she was going.
Why? Because no one else would?
Right.
Yeah. Well, it is true. You gotta get out. Nothing happens to you if you stay in your house. Nothing ever happens. So, words to the wise, because my tendency is to hunker down. My tendency is to, close the doors and keep to myself. Anyway, Suze, we got to talk about something.
Okay.
Well, there's a few things. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. I see that the president has told Congress that up to 275 American troops, some of which are already in Iraq at Baghdad.
And they're merely to protect the embassy.
Which I think is an absolutely,
right.
That is a proper
That's right.
deployment. That's a proper deployment.
Right. You have to. I mean, especially after Benghazi.
Yeah. God forbid anybody in the U.S. Embassy trips and falls. So, absolutely he has to do that. But my God, guys, anything beyond that is nuts. Is just flat out insane. George Will. What a sourpuss he is, by the way.
Boy, he is in so much trouble.
Why? What'd he do?
Oh, what did he do? He made disgusting comments about rape victims and the preponderance of the large number of unreported rapes and underdealt with rapes on college campuses. And I can't remember the term he used, but it was if it was a good thing to be a rape victim.
Oh, like it's the fad. It's like you get standing if you're a rape victim.
Something. I can't remember what it was
it's
he
a
said,
status
and
symbol.
I'm too lazy to look it up. But there have been letters to the editor saying, get him off the pages.
Wow. But listen to this that he says. Here is a question for Republican presidential aspirants. Given the absence of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, and given that we now know how little we know about nation building and about promoting democracy in nations that need us to build them, and given that Saddam Hussein's horrific tyranny at least controlled Iraq's sectarian furies, and given that Iraq under him was Iran's adversary, and given that 10-year wars make Americans indiscriminately now averse to any military undertakings, given all this, if you could rewind history to March 2003, would you favor invading Iraq?
Isn't that interesting?
Ain't that interesting? Yep.
Well, no, I wouldn't.
No, and I mean, obviously he's suggesting it as a rhetorical question, and the answer is obviously no, you wouldn't, would you? Would you? So he told...
And there are those that are using, the veterans who managed to survive those conflicts and come back as an excuse for why you should go back in and put more men and women in jeopardy.
Well, you know what?
You can't.
Yeah, right. Then what they did was I was thinking of that in terms, of course, of your loss, more personal loss in Iraq, and you cannot. That is such a false argument.
It certainly is. Why would you want to sacrifice
more
for no good reason, even more of our children?
Exactly right. If you already have asked some, and they answered the call to give their lives for their country in an stupid, unnecessary war, and then things really go awry and are a disaster, is the answer to do it all again?
Yeah, the answer is double down.
It's insane.
It's just not.
It's just unbelievable. So I got to tell you, when I saw that, I normally don't read George Will, but the headline caught me. And it said, hubris on display, American-built nations are falling apart. And I thought, oh, George, this is interesting.
Ninu?
Yes?
Lynn?
Sorry.
My son just sent me something that said, do you guys know there is no sound?
What?
Oh, shit. Jess, do you know there's no sound? There seems to be sound, says Jess, but Susan's son is not. But Susan's son is not. What? Susan's son is not. What? Susan's son is not. Wait a minute. Okay, stop that. But Susan's son, though, is a computer whiz, so he's not making some kind of stupid mistake on his end.
I believe him, but there's sound.
She says she believes Arlie, but there's sound here in our.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a call. Hang on. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Originally, I didn't have any sound either, but I just re-clicked your program, and the sound eventually did come back.
Huh.
When I first clicked on, I did not have sound either.
What a piece of crap operation. Excuse me.
That's not the main reason why I called.
Okay.
Did you see about what the International Monetary Fund said about the United States minimum wage?
No. So tell
Let
me.
me bring it back up here.
What?
He's bringing it back up.
What?
He's bringing it up.
I'm bringing it back up here.
Oh.
It says America is globally shamed for its pathetic minimum wage, according to the International Monetary Fund.
Huh. Wow.
And they're saying that the U.S. economic growth will be slowed since the minimum wage is not going up.
Good for them. Can you imagine? How humiliating to be told by this, international agency that we don't even know how to govern ourselves, or our public policies are harming our economy and we're too stupid to see it.
Well, the thing is...
By the way, I'm being told by others there is no sound.
Oh, I just
Restarted.
re-clicked a couple times and I did eventually get your sound. But why isn't there a national demonstration? Why isn't hundreds of thousands of people marching on Washington demanding an increase to the minimum wage?
Because Americans are asleep at the switch. You can't get Americans up and out the door for anything.
That's true. You would think there would be hundreds of thieves. Somebody would, assemble a mass demonstration in Washington, D.C., and hundreds of thousands of people would congregate there and demand an increase in minimum wage. And I don't hear a word about anything.
Well, I mean, there is. I mean, there's a local organization here, PIN, the Pittsburgh Interfaith something Action Network or something. And I know that one of my rabbis is part of that, and he got himself arrested recently protesting UPMC's wages. And you have the fast food workers in cities all over the country demonstrating. But do you see support from Americans? No. No. Because I think Americans who are making more than the minimum wage don't get it and don't care. And Americans who are making the minimum wage are working 3 and 4 and 5 jobs and don't have time to go to Washington or the money to get there. That's my guess.
Also, did you hear about the ruling of the Supreme Court yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Thank God.
Well, yeah, thank God. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's not that. So what? They actually said that, no, you cannot buy a gun and then give it to somebody else. That's not the way it works.
It was a 5-4 decision.
Yeah, that's right. And you can name the 4 without even looking. Those friggin' numbskulls. Hey, thanks for the call.
You're welcome.
Okay, I want to... Susan, are you still there?
I am.
I am.
I am. I'm sorry about my voice, but I am.
What are we going to do about...
I was assuring my son that some people got it and some people didn't.
And he still doesn't?
Nope. He said both the audio stream and the video stream audio are not there.
Are down.
Yep.
And here's another caller who says there isn't any sound. I opened yesterday's link, and I have sound for that. I do not have current sound.
Just tell him to refresh the page, I guess.
Has Arlie tried to refresh the page?
Probably.
I told him to. I don't know if he did. I will see.
Okay. Excuse me, but this is not exactly,
Riveting, I know.
No, it's not riveting. And I'm just sorry to know that we've been yapping and nobody's listening. And I'm wondering, because I can't hear. Is there anyone we can get down here, Jess?
I texted Carlo.
Okay.
It's working for me, so I don't know what he...
Okay, so okay, whatever. God dang it. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a break. And we'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
While cutting molding with a 12-inch dual compound miter saw, while holding a newborn baby in your arms, when face-to-face with a congregation of alligators, with the ball in your hands and the entire freaking season on the line.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting, so why would you do it while driving? NASCAR driver Casey Kane here, asking you to please stop the text, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Get the message at stoptextstopwrecks.org.
Okay, the Urban Gardener. Guys, if you haven't ever visited this place, please do. I'm giving you a gift. I am. I mean, there's possibility of two gifts. The first gift being introducing you to this wonderful urban nursery, not one of the big sprawling urban nurseries, because in the city there's never as much room because UPMC's sitting on all of it. Okay, the Urban Gardener. So it's this little lot, and they specialize in urban gardeners, which are gardens which are usually little lots. They know their stuff. Anything. They got everything from the trees down to the lowest of the low, like ground cover, and everything in between. Extremely helpful people. You can tell this by simply going to their website. You can see these are people who love what they're doing, who know what they're doing, and who want to share what they know. So go to urbangardenerpgh.com. And then once you've done that, I got a feeling you'll have your curiosity piqued, and you might want to head over and see it for yourself. 1901 Brighton Road. It's right there on the north side and easily gotten to. If you buy something there, which will be hard not to do once you are there, please mention moi, moi, moi. Oh, God, this voice. Moi, me, Lynn Cullen, and get a discount. Promise.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to WWE SmackDown at Console Energy Center on June 24th. The CP Haps app brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay, generally what I'm hearing from people is that a lot of you did not have sound at first. You refreshed and you did get sound. I'm also hearing from people that they still can't get sound on video, but they are doing it on audio. A lot of people are saying they can hear me just fine. Margaret likes my outfit. I can hear you fine since minute 1. Audio only, not video, reports Ray. So that's what we're getting. And Margaret's complaining about Livestream, which she listens through, and she says that freezes every day.
Oh.
Is that our thing?
Carlos said the audio and video is working.
He's up here. We're getting audio and video.
And my son says it's working on one of his computers, and because this is what he does, not another.
Well, that's odd. Then that doesn't
that's
implicate
totally odd.
us.
He doesn't get it either, but he's switched over to a different computer.
Okay, all right. So, used to have 2-car garages. Now we're on to 3-car garages. Now
He says it depends on what your browser is. It works on Internet Explorer on a PC. And
it's working on
the Mac is having problems, so it's a different browser.
Firefox might be having problems, and Mac is having problems. Who the hell knows? Listen,
Safari.
guys. Safari. All right. Safari. That's right, on a Mac. I don't know. Well, anyway, here we are. Here we are for whatever good that'll do. Susan.
Yes.
Do you have in St. Louis yet these alternative taxi things, Uber and Lyft?
Like Lyft, yes. And I mean, when I left, I haven't checked on the current legal state. There was an injunction against them.
So they go in, okay, state after state is fighting them. They're saying they're not, and yet they do not back down because they have billions of dollars behind them. So they're paying fines. They're doing whatever. They're in big trouble here now. Our Public Utility Commission is coming after them. The same in Virginia. And obviously this is the way people are going to...
well, it's like Airbnb, people, using their homes to make money. People are using their personal cars to make money. And I would point out that you get what you pay for. I mean, if you want to get into a cab, which is regulated, whose driver is background checked and insured, and whose car has to have certain safety features. If you want to give up all the stuff that regulation buys for you and accept a ride from a stranger,
right?
Well, I don't think that anybody should be able to say no.
Okay, that's sort of my feeling too. I don't think it's...
What's the difference between this and the hitchhiking, for example?
Well, I don't think it's as quite as insecure a situation as hitchhiking, because obviously don't Uber and Lyft vet in some way the people that they are allowing to work under their logos? I mean, there has to be, and don't they provide insurance for their drivers? I mean, there has to be something. Why would anyone do that otherwise? I mean, it's not that Uber and Lyft don't provide any of this. I mean, if somebody signs up, some lunatic signs up, and he's got a car that wouldn't pass inspection, would Uber or Lyft say, okay, fine, sure, you can drive for us? No, they wouldn't. Or would they? I mean, how does that work?
I don't know.
Well, that wouldn't be a reasonable business plan. I mean, so I'm going to assume that Uber and Lyft do some due diligence themselves. I'm going to make that assumption because I can't believe anything else would be a business model that anybody would sign on to. But, I mean, I don't think there's any stopping this. It's all,
I don't either.
So
and
why,
and the business model carefully figures out how to not be regulated by. There's no charge in the case of Lyft. It's a donation.
Yeah, but would you ever get picked up again if you didn't donate?
No, you would not. Nor if you didn't give a fair price.
But see, here's the thing that's happening here. So both Lyft and Uber made proper applications to our Public Utility Commission to operate experimental services. And there is such a designation for transportation options that are not covered by state law. So they did do that. However, of course, immediately the cab companies and everybody else started protesting and filing protests against that application.
Right, and saying that, this is, I mean, how could you not call this a livery service or a cab service?
Right, so
it's essentially the same service.
Okay. But so they tie that up, and so consequently they have not even had a hearing on their attempt to get some kind of proper designation. Meanwhile, Yellow Cab here in Pittsburgh decided to fight fire with fire, and they have had a virtual monopoly here in town, and they provide lousy service. And they then created something like Uber and Lyft themselves. They called it Yellow X. It has an app.
Which, by the way, is proof of the free market system working.
Yes.
Because it's forcing them to make their product better.
But so here's what happens. They put in their application to the PUC for an experimental service, and they're immediately given approval. So Yellow X is operating with with approval from the PUC, and Lyft and Uber can't get that approval because somehow their applications are stymied in all kinds of bureaucratic red tape. I just don't understand. I mean, clearly, if a state regulatory commission was doing its job, which was to serve the consumer, not to serve the existing monopoly,
the lobbyists,
right, then they would be bending over backwards to make this happen, seeing that this is a wave of the future, that there is a great demand for it, and that it's all over the country, and it's even now in Europe, and the European cabbies are going nuts too.
And it links into that changing demographic that we've spoken about before. There's a whole group of young people that have chosen not to get driver's licenses.
That's right. They don't drive.
And there's another group that were not raised in the 50s and the 60s who actually believe that you shouldn't drink after you shouldn't drive after you have had drinks.
Right. So, I mean...
And these people want available service. And you're right. If you call a cab at the wrong time, you don't get a cab.
I mean, the fact is that the cab companies that exist here do not serve certain populations. All they want to do is go to the airport and back. And you can see why, since you took one. What did it cost you?
It was, I can't remember, but it was probably with tip about $60.
I thought you said it was like 70 or something. It was
70
huge.
Maybe with tip. I can't remember.
It was huge.
Well, it's a long way.
It is a long
And we were in rush hour.
I don't know. So anyway, I just and my memory tells me that the head of the Public Utility Commission here said that he was going to cooperate and that he didn't want to stand in the way of progress. And then that's exactly what he does. God. It's the kind of thing that makes people say government is a bunch of crap. Government does, and then, which becomes an unhelpful thing in when it's assumed
if the government is rigged towards the established business community.
It is,
and therefore against anybody else. Then you have a right to be suspicious of that government. But the only way that you can do anything about it is to re-engage and get that government out of there.
We have a call. Hello?
I'll tell you how the PUC works.
Okay.
If you wanted to start a cab business in Pittsburgh, and you could not prove that it is different than any existing cab service already available, you would not be able to start a cab service.
Why? Because, I mean, why would
that
be?
Is the PUC's ruling.
But see how absurd that is it's not the PUC's risk if somebody wants to try to enter a marketplace.
I understand, but that's just the way. And if you're going to, apply for a cab service in Pittsburgh, Yellow Cab will challenge it.
Well, yes, of course.
They want to have a monopoly.
Yeah, they pretty much do.
So, but if you're trying to provide any kind of comparable service to Yellow Cab, and it's not. There was a Classy Cab in Pittsburgh, and they were able to get away with it because they were offering an upscale cab service. But
why by calling it
any run-of-the-mill cab service where you're just running like normal type of vehicles, and if you're trying to do that, it's really illegal to do because we already have that in Yellow Cab, and no new cab service would be approved. And anything time that happens, Yellow Cab is going to challenge it, obviously, because they want to have a monopoly in the cab business in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, they have a great ally in the regulatory agency that supposedly is supposed to be neutral.
Yes, and the Public Utility Commission is not a protected public. It protects the cab companies.
It absolutely does, although they pretend they're protecting the public.
And this is coming from a former Yellow Cab driver.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then you know of what you speak. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's much the same here. There used to be competing cab services, but they just kept eating each other up, and now there's two. And I think one is African American owned, and it serves a largely, African American population.
Well, because around here,
and then there's county cab, and what does that mean to you?
White people.
There you
cab
go.
Company. Oh God. And that's perfectly fine to have segregated cab services. And what we have here in Pittsburgh, and the PUC looks the other way, is because they know damn well that yellow cab won't service the African American communities. And consequently, you have illegal jitneys, is what they're called, that operate in the African American community. They don't look like cabs, they look like cars. And they, people who need them know how to get them, and they service that community. The PUC doesn't go after them. They know they're there because they know Yellow Cab is not servicing them. So it is just it's
ridiculous. It's just, I don't know. I do feel that there are times that free market is what this country is about, and I do think that cab companies have been unusually successful in most cities at maintaining a monopoly. Right. There's only one cab company that's out at the airport. There's only one. It's like they just gave them fiefdoms.
Well, that can't. It just clearly
like gangs.
Clearly, exactly, gangs with turf, and it ain't right. I'm telling you, it ain't right. Okay. I want to also, Suze, talk about... Do you know what? So there's all this joy here when Judge Jones ruled that Pennsylvania's Defense of Marriage Act was unconstitutional on its face, and consequently gay people in Pennsylvania have been now for a few weeks free to marry. And what's fascinating, though, is that the state of Pennsylvania, via its legislature, has never passed an anti-discrimination law that includes gays and lesbians and transgender and the whole group. There is no protection for gays and lesbians in Pennsylvania in employment, in housing, and in public accommodations because the state legislature has never and has been unable to pass such a measure. So you end up now in Pennsylvania, as I heard the attorney who won this case, Vic Walczek of the ACLU, he said, so a couple now in Pennsylvania can legally marry and then return to work and put a picture of their spouse on their desk.
And be fired for it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Isn't that unbelievable? Now, that couldn't happen in Pittsburgh. It couldn't happen in Allegheny County because both those governmental entities did, years ago, include gays and lesbian in their anti-discrimination laws. But a whole huge swath of Pennsylvania still refuses to protect gays and lesbians from discrimination, as they do for ethnicities and color and religion and disability. So there is one person who now stands in the way, and he is a state legislator from a suburb of Pittsburgh who is vile. His name is Darrell Metcalf, and he, it turns out, chairs the state government committee in the House. And he simply will not let that bill have a hearing. So they can't even get it to the floor. They think that if it ever got to the floor, it would be passed. Now, what do you do? And I want to thank the folks out there in Cranberry, those folks that vote for Daryl Metcalf, who's against everything. He's against, he's scared to death of immigrants. He's scared to death of gays. He thinks Christians are being persecuted. And he thinks that putting gays under discrimination legislation is equivalent to torturing Christians, discriminating against Christians. And he has been able to prevent this law from getting to the floor. And I'm sure this kind of thing happens in legislatures all over the country.
There isn't anyone there that can't explain to him the difference between discrimination and not being allowed to foist your own views on other people.
I'm willing to bet that some have tried with Daryl Metcalf, but this is a man who, Susan, you've seen many of them, you've got your legislatures full of them, who knows what he knows, and he knows the truth. And he's standing like a bulwark against these, liberals and hordes that would destroy Christian Western civilization. Oh, God. I'm so weary of these people and the power they wield. And the fact is they have a lot of Confederates who are behind them and who reelect them over and over again. A lot of those folks I'm looking at the skyscrapers of Pittsburgh right now. A lot of the folks that vote for Daryl Metcalf are no doubt busily working in their little offices here. And so they're
listen, Todd Aiken was my representative for years and years and years.
Right. See, there you go. So they're right here amongst us, these fearful, foolish people. I don't know what else to call them. Fearful, foolish, and not an ounce of empathy in their blood. I got to take a break. Okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Pick up the Pittsburgh City Paper today. Still the #1 source for weekend fun in the Burgh. Go online now at pghcitypaper.com to vote in the 2014 Best of Pittsburgh Readers Poll and type in promo code CPLBTIX for your chance to win Luke Bryan tickets. Vote now before it's too late. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live United.
So give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay. Suze, I got a text from my son yesterday. But it said, "Did you see that video of the Pittsburgh cop beating the hell out of a woman at the Pride parade?" And I said, "No."
Me either.
Me either. So I asked him to send it to me, and there was nothing in the paper yesterday about it.
It was all over the internet.
It was all over the internet. Okay, so this kind of stuff goes, viral immediately. And I have seen the video now. I would say his characterization was a little over the top, frankly. As it turns out, the mayor and the public safety chief have held a press conference about it on Saturday. All the more reason why on Monday. And as I see the video, I think it is very unclear in some ways what happened. By all accounts, there were anti-gay marriage demonstrators that were there. And the woman, I don't know if she's a lesbian, but the woman who got beat up a little bit confronted one of them and apparently got physical with him. The cop sees this, comes running over, attempts to get in between. The cop says she hauls off and kicks him in the balls. And that's when he apparently hauled off and punched her in the stomach twice.
Okay, well, that's even.
That's even. It's unclear from the video because the video, you see something happening and then the camera goes away and then you just see him punching her. You do not see the in-between, which gives you some context.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, they say they're going to... She's in jail. And she's still in jail because I think... she sounds like a troublemaker because...
Well, she assaulted a police officer.
Well, she said she didn't realize he was a cop. The cop says that she apologized the minute she saw he was a cop and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't see you were a cop. I'm sorry I hit you." And then it turns out that this same woman is awaiting a preliminary hearing on charges that she assaulted her mother.
Yeah, she's a hothead and wants to fight everybody.
Okay, so everybody immediately overreacts, right? The cop haters right away know that.
Well, everybody looks at a picture and assumes that they know what the story is, and they don't.
Right, they don't. You don't know. We don't know. The thing is, what he did to her is very clear on the video. But
she already apologized and said she didn't mean to hit him, which means that the other part was there.
Well, but that's according to him. So, who knows? But what she did to him is not on the video. And he's been taken off the street. He's, stuck in the warrant office for a month. I also couldn't help but notice that he has a very un-Pittsburgh police officer name. He sounds like he might be one of the few ethnic minorities on the police force. His name sounds Indian to me. I'm looking for the full name, but... I mean, it would be a real shame for a force that is like 98% white again, that we would lose an officer like this. And how stupid would an officer have to be to start beating up somebody at a gay pride parade? Huh?
Yeah,
for no reason.
I tend to believe his story.
I'm tending to want to believe him. There are a lot of people overreacting. The Delta Foundation is asking for the feds to look into the possible civil rights violations.
That is all knee-jerk, and people should wait near the facts before they weigh in a little bit.
That's what my sense is, and that's
this is why eyewitness testimony is notoriously, unreliable, because you bring your own mindset to what you're seeing.
Exactly.
In the same set of, eyes, depending on what the brain's telling it, can be seeing two very different things.
Uh-huh. Hey, back to the former subject. Chuck writes, "My wife and I use Airbnb often." Now, you said that, Susan. I don't even know what that is.
Airbnb, which is under fire in New York right now, is a online rental service where, for example, if you're going to New York and you don't want to spend, $400 a night for a closet, you can rent people's apartments.
Or a room in their apartment.
No, their whole apartment. They get out.
Oh, because I
and
read
you've got a stocked, nice apartment, and they're online, and you can see what. She's used this in New York. She used it in San Francisco, and they had a beautiful apartment in San Francisco. And it's for and you get that for $150 to $200 a night. So of course, the hotel lobby is all up in arms.
Here's my question: why would somebody who has enough money to have a nice apartment in San Francisco or New York?
Because somebody doesn't have enough money, and it's a great alternative to a roommate. You go stay with friends for one weekend a month, and you get $600, and you put it towards your rent.
Okay. So Chuck writes, my wife and I use Airbnb often, and if you are careful choosing your room and hosts, it can be quite a nice and affordable experience. Keep in mind that the host takes on just as much risk as the guest. That said, my understanding is that Uber's sites are set much higher than just being the middleman between riders and drivers. Uber, by its very name, Uber wants to be the middleman between anyone with a desirable resource and the people needing that resource. Wow. They want to own the world, huh? They want to, when we go back to essentially a barter economy. This could be cars, but it could be trucks for moving, rooms for rent, ballrooms for weddings, anything. Okay, well, they can have their site set wherever they want it. Again, if people are willing and find it advantageous to them to do this less conventional
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I would never want to do it and stay with strangers. And my daughter has never done it that way. She's gotten two very nice apartments, one in Brooklyn and one in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, there was a wonderful article not too long ago in the New York Times about a man who lives in Brooklyn, I think, maybe Queens, whatever. But he, Susan, just rents out his guest bedroom. And he has gotten to know so many people. Most of them are from Europe. They come and they stay, and he sometimes cooks for them, or they cook for him, or they stay for a week. And they now I would no more do that than I mean I can't even imagine that. But for somebody who is open and maybe gregarious, what a wonderful thing! I don't think he has to pay his rent at all anymore, and he has they're not always
so there's all
there.
sorts of different reasons to be able to do that. I think doing that sort of thing is not getting in trouble. If you stay there and you are truly a host, nobody has a right to say that ain't a guest. But in the case of the people that, vacate their premises and, give you their premises, there's more legal argument to say you can't do that.
Wait a minute. Ray is saying the woman was the protester? No. The woman who's in jail was an anti-gay protester? Not the pro-pride marchers. No. I don't think that's true. Ray, Jess, is that how you understand it? No, she was taking on a guy who was protesting gay marriage loudly. And that altercation between her and the guy resulted in the cop coming over. That's my understanding as I read it. The officer's account states a fight started between this woman and a man. The officer worked his way through the crowd to break up the fight, and that's when she punched him. And then he grabbed her by the hair and punched her at least 2 times in the chest. Then he says she apologized. The paper today said the man that she got in the fight with was an anti-gay marriage protester. He was protesting the fact that the mayor had married 19 gay couples, I guess, earlier in the day. That's what I understand, Ray. But I'm quite willing to be told I'm wrong. The guy who was protesting is named Eric Moore of McKeesport. He said he and several others were preaching against the mayor's decision to perform same-sex marriages. And then at some point, Ms. Lowther approached them, and Moore says she screamed real loud to the point where she just snapped, and she shoved me real hard. And then the officer, who Moore described as a smaller guy in size, tried to break things up. On the video, he looks tiny, too. So that's my understanding. Whatever. I want everybody, my thing with this is everybody take a deep breath and wait.
And wait for the facts to come out.
Exactly. Can we...
just because it's a woman doesn't mean that she wasn't the aggressor.
Right, exactly. And if we know she's already facing a charge that she beat up her own mother, I don't know if this is something the Delta Foundation wants to go to the mat about. Whatever. Let's just find out. What is the... Everybody. Knee jerk. Rich is right. I just used Airbnb to rent a room in State College on graduation weekend when hotel rooms were $400 a night. I paid $125 to rent a room in someone's house. Very nice room and nice hosts. So this is going on. And so is that a website, Airbnb?
Yeah. And it's where you just look in where you want to go, and they should post pictures, there should be reviews. If you're careful about how you do it, you should have a very nice experience.
Well, what does that mean, careful? I mean, how do you be
careful
it means more
just,
than...
do a little, the basic due diligence,
Which is?
Exchange emails, look at real pictures, read reviews. There are ways to...
Mm-hmm. And you would never do that, Susan?
Well, I don't know.
I can see staying if somebody gave me their whole apartment as opposed to a New York hotel.
Yeah, of course.
Room, which are always about 6 by 8 and the potential for bed bugs.
Right.
So,
well, the same thing in the apartment.
Well, that's true, too. But you'd have to be a real jerk to invite people into your house if you knew you had bed bugs. I don't know. All right, well, that's it. Is there anything else we should be talking about?
I don't think so. I liked the story about Stonehenge being about the noise.
Oh, tell me that. I didn't read that article.
Well, what it is that these rocks have a quality that they ring like a bell when they are struck with a mallet. And there's evidence that several of these rocks, had areas on them where they could have been, shown indications that they were
struck by mallet.
And it's just, nobody's saying exactly why they might have wanted to make the noise, but they're pretty, they're positing that this particular kind of rock, which they had to haul at that time 160 miles to get there had to be a reason why they wanted these particular rocks. And there are several places around the world where one in Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact, where this kind of rock exists and is known to make noise.
Be a singing rock.
And the churches apparently in the area use these Stonehenge as their church bells for up until the 17th century.
Well, how amazing is Stonehenge then? Because it was amazing for its placement of these rocks in regard to astronomy, right?
Right. Well, they think it might have been a place for healing, but they don't really know. They're making this up. But they do know. The one line that I thought I really liked is that the anthropologist that's positing all of this is saying, we tend to think of the Stone Age as a silent film, and it's interesting to try and add the soundtrack.
Was that in the science section today of the Times? I thought I saw something, but I skipped it. Well,
anyway,
thank you. I'll
go
back.
Interesting. I liked it.
Okay. Go back and check that out. And we are out of time. My apologies for the sound issues and whether that's...
Well, I think it was just server issues. So
it wasn't us. Blame it on Safari, probably. It seems to have been a Mac issue. We don't know, but the fact is a lot of other people had some...
Well, it depends.
issues.
I think Chrome didn't work, Safari didn't work, but other things did.
Okay. And my suggestion to all of you who do watch us is to maybe take a lip reading course. It couldn't hurt. Okay? Sue, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.